welcome back. As you can see, I'm wearing my Death Pledge t-shirt. Oh yeah, Death Pledge in the house. This one is called The Return of the Story. Oh yeah, Return of the Story. This came from a conversation that I was having with some comic book creators about the importance of stories in comic books mostly, but probably in general. You know, I write in 3 mediums, as you know. I'm about to do a board game, but I haven't done it yet, so we'll see. But right now, it's comic books, novels, and film. And we've seen changes take place in both books and in film in terms of diversity, right? Books had a protest about 5 years ago. You know, the ladies said no more white male writers, and they wanted more diversity. So they everything, sexual, gender, racial, cultural, all that diversity they wanted in literature, right? And that was a significant change. Now, how much change it changed, I know I see a couple, right? Not even a lot, right? A couple of black female writers got put on. But they probably would have got put on anyway, you know. That were mentioned and promoted a little bit more in that movement, right? But that was it. I didn't see any male writers, black writers, right? Male black writers, black male writers. I didn't see any of them get put on. I didn't see an increase in writers of color overall. So it really was empty movement, you know, that started a conversation, right? Film has gradually been progressing with people of color, and specifically black films, over and over and over and over, right? I don't know, I don't count between male and female leads and stuff like that, but I do know overall everybody's been going up, right? So comic books have had an increase also from what I see. This ain't no detailed study. This is just my observations, right? So I looked at those and saw an element of it that I felt needed to be highlighted, because I don't think it's wrong saying that it's a diversity increase, right? I don't think it's wrong for saying we need diversity, right? I'm all for that, because I'm part of the diverse community that I didn't read when I was younger in comic books, film, or in novels, right? So I'm down for all of that. But I think, moreover, it isn't just a visual aesthetic change, right? It's not just only looking at the pictures of it. What really is fueling this, and what really needs to supply the demand, is a shift in the story. Follow me on this. On Facebook, we was talking about what is black sci-fi, right? What is black horror, right? Would you call yourself a black horror creator, or a black sci-fi person, or are you just sci-fi, right? Or are you just horror? And I think, you know, while I am in the umbrella of what is horror, right, I'm more specifically African-American horror, right? I'm not African horror. I'm not Brazilian horror. They got a lot of black people. I'm not Native American horror. I'm not Japanese, Chinese. All those have horror expressions or elements, not elements. They have horror stories within their cultural umbrella, right? However, they are all unique unto themselves, or common variables unto themselves and different from other cultures' horror stories. Not only that, it doesn't limit the appeal unless you're dealing with something in Mandarin or Japanese or African dialect. But even with that, there's still room for translation, subtitles, dub-overs. So the story still will remain. So I have no problem calling myself a black sci-fi writer or African-American sci-fi writer, because it's not just a race or culture-based description. That description also comes with what it is that makes me African-American horror or sci-fi or whatever you want to call it, fantasy, speculative fiction. The things that I speculate about, the things that make up my culture are unique to my cultural experience, right? My culture, the collective people that have the shared experience that I have, meaning we're all human beings, right? But people who settled in Japan, they call themselves Japanese, have a unique experience, right? It manifests even in how they look, right? Same as Chinese people, same as European people, same as Native American people and African people, right? So we're all humans, but what makes us different, or variations of the human species, is our experiences, our environmental experiences, and then our people experiences. So there's no African writer that's going to write about slavery the way an African-American writer will write about it. Dominican writers may write about it in a variation that's unique to the Dominican Republic. Jamaican writers, Trinidadian writers, Cuban writers, they may write about slavery because they all have slavery in their cultural experience, but it is of a different element. Same thing with European writers. They may write about slavery, but it's going to be a going with the wind type of experience, especially in American slavery, because they were the ones that held Africans enslaved. You know, and Africans, they were the ones that were enslaved and came out of that to become African Americans. And that experience makes it unique. So now, why do I think the diversity movement is better called, not better, but is also capable of being called a story shift? What made sci-fi vulnerable for a growth to diversity was an exhaustion of similarity and repetition. So the stories, we always say, oh, the stories of sci-fi got stale. Yeah, they got stale, and they got repetitious. They started repeating the same thing over and over again. And what do you call it? The stories were so similar, they didn't seem different enough, you know? It's more than Sixth Sense and Stir of Echoes. These things were very, very, very much similar to each other, you know? Oh, aliens, they land on another planet. No, that's the same thing. That's aliens all over again. So for diversity to come in, it's not just black people landing on a planet with aliens and something jumps on their face. They have to have a whole shift of how they will behave, and that's one. But then the overall story, what do they find? How do they interpret what they find, right? When they land on that planet, you know, do they react in a way that that planet would become violent towards them? Now, I'm not rape shaming the humans that landed on the alien planet. Of course, that alien was a violent alien, but the whole story, even including it to be a violent alien, is part of the culture that produced it. So if a white man wrote it, that comes out of the white man's culture, his experience. Whether it's his family experience or his greater culture experience, it's based on comparison. So you created a species that is straight terror, unlike any other species known on Earth. There is no species that just devours and devours, doesn't grow, doesn't need anything from it, that just kills and kills. Sure, you can say the house cat is a close relationship to the aliens and alien, but even the house cat doesn't do that all the time. Sure, they kill for sport, and they're probably the only animal that kills for sport. And I don't even know if we go through insects and other species, if there's a species that just kills and kills and kills and kills. So, yes, that's a cool thing to imagine, but the culture that imagined it has to also own it, that it came from their culture's imagination. So, would Chinese people imagine something like that? And if they did, how would it manifest? Would it be something connected to spiritual energy? Would it be something that's connected to Kama Sutra? Or would it just be something that happened out of nowhere? And then later you explain it to be a product of some Promethean humans, again, or Promethean life forms that gave birth to humanity, that created something that would just kill their other creations. That also is their culture. They have to own it. So when we look at, and I'm being very broad in my generalizations, right? But if you want to disprove me, we can have a debate, and then I can be more specific in my examples. I'm just using the alien example because it came to mind. But to be honest, I do feel that there are cultural similarities from one culture to another that manifest in their sci-fi, their speculative fiction, their horror, their fantasy, you name it. And those things, those similarities are what allow for groupings to be made, whether it is Italian sci-fi, Chinese sci-fi, heck, Korean sci-fi, right? Japanese sci-fi, African sci-fi, African-American sci-fi. All of those are cultural story shifts. Now, can you do a Japanese version of Wizard of Oz? Heck yeah. Can you do a black version of Planet of the Apes? Yes, you can. However, is it that much of a shift to really move the equation? No. It's very simple. So when we say you have to think deep and become real creative, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about making those deep shifts, making something that is fully unique and fully new and fully embraced in the imagination of that culture's creation. So I think when you talk about what you're going to do in black sci-fi, you want to be as original and different in variation as you can. And that would really help push the black sci-fi movement, and not even push that black sci-fi movement, help your story become more successful, because it's not just the black version of somebody else's story. It is your story that's unique. And that's it. All right. I'll touch base with you later. Like, subscribe, I don't know, whatever else you want to do. Do it all, because it's all good. All right? Just remember, I got another one coming after this.